is. Thank you, Deepa, for the timely question. Yes, we are recording. I've started the recording and we'll capture the meat of this meeting. It will be posted to the Technology Center website, and we'll certainly send out information afterwards regarding the availability of the recording. It can be distributed and shared at will. So I think you've probably had plenty of time to look at this agenda slide I've had up, and I know we have a lot to cover today, so I'm just going to move on here, and I'm gonna hand this off to Jane Linder to give us the overview for SuperGlue. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandoval. Can you hear me all right?
Yes. Yeah,
okay,
coming through loud and clear. Thank you.
Great. And I do have to apologize. I just realized I had not put the presentation in the latest format, which I had meant to do. I was so busy getting the content arranged, but I will do that prior to us sending out a link to it or sending out a PDF for everybody. Let me get this presented.
Great. Thanks, Jane.
All right, can everybody see that?
Yes, Jane, we can see that.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, we can see it.
All right, thank you, Sandoval, and thanks everybody for joining us in this overview of what's new with SuperGlue, what we have built and where we are going in the upcoming fiscal year. My name is Jane Linder, and I am the SuperGlue product owner, product manager. I've been in educational technology over a decade, starting first with the Power School K-12 student information system. I worked in integrations and API development there, and then was really happy to come here and really enjoying the experience of higher education, and really the fact that you guys don't have parent users, which is a very nice bonus to higher education, because they were our largest user group in K-12. And very vocal. So really happy to be here to share this with you. And we're going to talk a bit about why we developed SuperGlue, what it is, what we've got today for features. We're gonna bring Paul on to talk about his interaction with Glue, the deployment process at College of the Redwoods, and how they're using the features there. And then we're going to talk about what we're doing with SuperGlue in this upcoming fiscal year. And for that, I will be bringing in my fellow product owners from the other system-wide products that the Technology Center develops. We'll wrap up with Andy Newman, our Director of Enabling Services, to talk about how you get SuperGlue for those of you who are interested in learning more, and then have some questions, time for questions if we haven't answered those in the course of the presentation. So why did we develop SuperGlue? You guys are probably more familiar than even I am of the many, many pieces across our community college system that we need to fit together, you know, with all of the 115 colleges and the data that flows across students who attend often multiple campuses over multiple years, that we need to track and assist them in moving forward in their progress and their educational goals. We have lots of mandates like the Guided Pathways mandates and the AB 705 legislation, lots of initiatives, many system-wide products, and then, you know, within the college, each college, there's multiple vendors and systems too. So how do we bring that all together, and what's the strength of bringing that all together? Certainly, what we really wanted to focus on why we developed an integrations platform for our system is to really empower the learners and educators in our system with a system-wide view of, you know, particularly the student, that promotes a really good student experience. We know that if a student who's attending multiple campuses has to track many, many logins, it is a barrier to their success. We know that if we can bring a holistic view of the student together, and we can share that view with the colleges, and we can ensure that there's timely information coming about student progress towards your educational goals, and feedback to the students on how they're doing. It's an encouragement to them, and it really does give them a better experience and a faster time through our system and onward to their career and further educational goals. So we really want to empower that system-wide view of the student, that single login to a lot of the student-facing apps like Canvas and MyPath and CCC Apply. And we want to share that system-wide view with the colleges, as I mentioned, so that we can really try to bring things together for our student users. So what is SuperGlue? We are an integrations platform. We are the backbone that is actually interacting with all of the system-wide applications, multiple services, multiple colleges, and trying to make sure that all of this data is exchanged in a timely manner, in a secure manner, in a robust manner that scales across all of our system. And that's a pretty tall order when you're talking about a system as large as ours. So at the very top of this graphic, you can see that really it's all brought together by our CCC ID for students. One of the real keystones of SuperGlue is this ability to perpetuate and enforce the view of the student, the system-wide view of the student that's inherent in their CCC ID. So that account permeates everything and all of the data exchanges that we do, and that's very, very important because it does allow the SISs to pick up that ID. It allows all of the connected applications to view that student in the same way. So as you can see over the top, we have those system-wide applications we support, the Canvas, system-wide deployment, MyPath, CCC Apply, and the data warehouse for all of the reporting. You can see to the left, there's a lot of supporting services. There's our authentication and authorization, where we manage access to Glue services, and we have the Canvas API we interact with. We have a messaging service that MyPath uses to nudge and communicate with students, and we have the MyPath student profile service that where we're constantly feeding that information about the student in order to create that profile and power those nudges so that they can accomplish what the colleges are looking to accomplish in moving the student along their onboarding and other functions. We also communicate out, if you look to the right there, down to the individual colleges through our college adapter, which is installed behind the firewall at the colleges. That is what we use to facilitate direct delivery of application data and multiple measures placement data and other data sets to the colleges, so that you're able to get that data in a timely manner and run with it with your processes. So you can see that really all of this centers around just a few components we're going to talk about next. All of this points into a very centralized system, and we do that because it allows us to scale out better, to create one workflow that we can then replicate and build out rapidly. And we'll talk about those components in detail now. We really have, I've kind of broken our building blocks and our backbone that we have in SuperGlue down into sort of the ABCs. So we have components that help with access and identity and security. We have our API gateway that is really the system that all of our workflows and data passes through on the way to the college and elsewhere. And that is built in such a way that we're able to do very rapid integrations now. And then we have a centralized microservices architecture. As you saw, all of those pieces leading to just a few services. It's not a monolithic sort of architecture. It's really a microservices-based architecture. And what that means is it's centralized, but we can update at the microservices level rather than having to take apart a huge monolithic application. And I put a bonus D because in addition to the SuperGlue framework, that we have built, we have a really great partnership with our CCCTC enabling services that deploys things like the Glue College adapter to get all of the data down to the colleges. And that deployment mechanism is just such a bonus because we try to take the heavy lifting off of the colleges. We really try to make sure that as we deploy this free mechanism to give the data that the colleges need, that they're not burdened with a process that's impacting the projects they're trying to get done at the college. So we'll talk, Andy will talk about that a little bit later as well. So let's talk a little bit about the access, identity, and security. We have a identity, access, and management component, and that facilitates things like third-party access to SuperGlue services with partners like mobile app vendors who are working with our CCC Apply team to try to get those services to display on our mobile devices that are so in use and so prevalent right now with our student population. It allows us to unify login across all systems, even though they use a lot of different IDP mechanisms, Active Directory, LDAP, and things like that. As I mentioned, we enforce with all of our integrations that CCC ID, and in fact, we're able to see where the gaps are because we interact across the whole system and we interact with all of the different colleges. We're able to sometimes see the gaps where that CCC ID isn't supported. And one example of that is we started to evaluate and prototype recasting our integrations with Ethos, the Ellucian integration platform, over 2 years ago, and immediately we noticed that there was no support for our CCC ID and the Ethos endpoints. So we submitted an idea to Ellucian and said, hey, you really can't have an integrations platform without something that's going to support a statewide ID like our CCC ID. And they responded, and just this past fall, it went into pilot, and just this past year now, there is support for being able to write and to get students by an alternate ID, which will support our CCC ID. So we're able to see these kind of gaps because this is the space in which we work, is this system-wide view. We also have a master data management component, and that allows security in terms of tracking data, so having systems subscribe to data and changes that are interesting to them that they specifically want to see, but also allowing control in terms of locking down PII and other sensitive fields that you can determine that even if a system gets data, they aren't allowed this data, specific data. Okay, the B that I mentioned about our building blocks for rapid integration, we have an API gateway I mentioned. This is where our all of our workflows come through from the various system-wide applications and out to the systems that we connect with. That's based on Netflix Zool. We have it, it's a service workers, and service orchestration engine is Netflix Conductor. What that element that we built and we put into production last year, what that does is it means that now we can build one workflow for a specific data set, like say Glue for Applies. We're developing application data down to the colleges, but wherever that data needs to be shared now, we can just configure it. And we can send that to the data lake. We can send that data to the other systems that want to consume it without having to code a separate integration every time. And so we're really finding the benefit of rapid integration and deployment in that. Our college adapter, which is, as I mentioned before, the direct data delivery mechanism to the colleges, we have built out a super robust set of data objects that support a broad range of functions, the student data, roster data, course data, financial aid data. And so there's a lot of ability to get and push data between the SIS and our system-wide systems like MyPath. And we'll talk about some of the really exciting aspects of that conversation that SuperGlue is going to facilitate in the coming fiscal year. We do deliver, as I mentioned, directly to the SIS. We support PeopleSoft, Colleague, and Banner. We've, because we know of some colleges that are actively looking at other SIS systems such as Workday, we've had already conversations with these SIS systems to make sure that we're on track to understand what level of effort we would need to do to spin up a adapter for a Workday should the colleges decide to select that for their SIS. And also the adapter can be adapted to deliver data to other mission critical systems. And so that's another thing that we're constantly evaluating is the SIS really is the primary source so far, but we've had all kinds of discussions with colleges about, recruitment systems and other areas, or just a delivery to a specific file or server that, that can certainly be done through the adapter as we move forward. I already touched on our centralized microservices architecture. Like I said, I know it looks like everything is going through the gateway, which it is. That doesn't mean, though, that that's a huge monolith that we can't take apart and update rapidly. It is all based on a really good, robust microservices architecture. I'm really, really proud of the technology stack that has been built by our team here. It really uses a lot of the latest open source code, and they have really made it slick in terms of making sure that we have everything we need to deliver things robustly and securely. MDM I've mentioned, it's kind of a topic in and of itself. We have documentation and even a video that talks about master data management and what it is, but just to touch on a high level, our master data management component that's part of SuperGlue is a federated data management system, so it's not a central data store. The importance in you understanding the difference on that is really just to say that master data management tracks what the system of record is for the data that is being exchanged across the system. It doesn't store it off. It actually just tracks, what the system is that is originating that data and when there's changes. And that means that the data remains in control and housed at the colleges. It's not in this central data store. So that's the important aspect of that. The master data management piece is really important. It helps to keep the systems in sync, and it allows systems to subscribe to data change notifications. So if you're interested in if there's a student that's across multiple colleges, it has a facility to allow the colleges that have that student to subscribe to updates and keep in sync with the other college in terms of that data. And I already mentioned.
Hi, Jane. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt here. We have a question from Monterey Peninsula College. They have an in-house built SIS. They're asking if the college adapter can be adapted to that in-house SIS.
It can be, but we don't right now have that on our roadmap for the upcoming year. And, the problem is just that we have, a lot of other projects that are going across all of the 114 colleges or 115 colleges now of the system. So that's not right now on our roadmap, but it can be. We've actually explored that possibility, and we would just need to actually get that prioritized on our roadmap.
Yeah, there's many opportunities for input here, and one of the ways that you can direct this in terms of Monterey Peninsula College is by engaging with the college relationship managers and getting into the product roadmap. Also from Lou in the chat, there is support for writing data as a file to custom SIS systems, however.
There is, and we are doing that with placements, yes.
Right. And so Jane, in your last slide, it seemed like that some items of data exchange could be called out as critical and could be accommodated by for homegrown SIS.
Yeah, absolutely. The technology is there. It's just getting the resources and funding for that.
Certainly. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, good question. All right, so let's talk about SuperGlue today. What we have, I've already described quite a bit. So currently we are at 78 of the 115 colleges. We've got, as you can see, a lot of systems are live. We've got a number signed up and a number who are installed and now pending going live. So we're just under 70% of the system, and we certainly are hoping to convince the rest to join the bandwagon and get the free services and offerings that we have. So let's talk a little bit about those features that we have. The SIS integration that I mentioned, which is really delivering data right to your doorstep. We have a Glue for CCC Apply, where all three of the applications, the standard application, the international application, and the California Promise Grant application data can stream down through the college adapter that's deployed at your school. This means that, and we keep in sync with Apply releases, so that this means that you will always be getting the latest and greatest data without having to update a download client to do that. and it does stream down right away. And we've got some exciting enhancements to CCC Apply and the Glue data delivery that we'll talk about in our what's coming up tomorrow. But getting the Glue for Apply feature, I think, will bring a lot of benefits for the colleges who've been asking for things like data faster for their recruitment system. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. This year we were able to complete delivery of multiple measures platform data, student placements. And that was a real win because, as all of you know, with AB 705, we needed to have verified transcript data, not always just self-reported. And so we have been able to interact with the CCGI and CalPass Plus to get from the high schools that are actually partner schools, get verified transcript data from them. And then we, through SuperGlue processes, we pass that transcript information to Educational Results Partnership and the ERP, and they generate the placements for math and English based on that transcript, that verified transcript data. So that was an exciting project, and there's again more to come on that John Haddad will talk about at the end of this presentation. We also have a Canvas SIS integration where, with the rapid deployment of Canvas across our system, we wanted to make sure we had a baseline Canvas SIS integration that was available across the system. And, this is one thing that we really try to do as SuperGlue and as the Tech Center is make sure that, in these integrations that we're creating, it's available to the whole system. So we look at things from a system-wide perspective, try to make sure that we're getting the right level of features that are going to allow the whole system to benefit from what we provide. And it's free because we want to make sure that every college is on a level playing field in terms of their technology. We don't want anybody to not have something like a Canvas SIS integration because they can't pay maybe the $16,000 annually to get a plugin from another vendor or whatever. We really want to make sure this is all available to you guys, and these tools are here to really improve faculty and student experience. So with this integration, we are able to create Canvas courses automatically from, pulling SIS course data using SuperGlue. You select the courses from a list, and then those are automatically synced to Canvas. So there's really no need for your faculty to have to manually create the courses. They don't have to manually update the rosters in Canvas because students are automatically added to the Canvas courses when they're enrolled in the SIS. And if they drop, they're automatically removed from the roster with no loss of data. They're hidden from view, but anything that they might have turned in or that you want to track in terms of what they completed before they dropped is still stored off. Course data is updated automatically. So if there's different descriptions or content, that is actually automatically updated. If rooms change or anything like that, it's all synced. You can also auto provision student accounts. So if somehow you have a late add student, they can get their Canvas account automatically provisioned when they enroll in the classes. And then we're also trying really hard with a lot of our, what we've provided in Glue. We try to provide detailed statuses and logs on every time things are synced, and making sure that you guys are able to see that clearly, and there's a lot of transparency in what's getting done. So what we're really doing, and we've learned our ABCs, as I pointed out. We built those ABCs, and what we're really doing now is we're starting to talk. So we built those ABCs, and we were getting systems to talk, and we're really starting to get a lot of traction on these features that will give a great system-wide view of students, student progress, and sharing of information across all these different systems that provide a partial view of the student and bring it together. So again, with the multiple measures workflow, as we talked about that, there's multiple grantees and multiple data inputs that SuperGlue is managing to make that process happen and bring verified transcript data. Master data management is really in the mix in terms of the student profile data exchange between CCC Apply and MyPath, so that we can track, again, system of record and changes. And so a lot of this stuff is really coming together to make us make our systems talk and able to act in unison. So I'm going to take a time out here from talking at you, and I'm going to hand over to Paul Chown, who is the Director of Institutional Research and also Informational Systems in IE. Paul, I truncated your title because it was messing up my formatting. So I did abbreviations at the end, but these exalted titles, you know, they aren't always aesthetically perfect. So I'm going to hand over to you. So since Sandoval, if you can unmute Paul, that would be great. And he can talk a little bit about sort of, you know, the reality of what it is to go through a SuperGlue deployment, how we're supporting the system, and how they're using the data that we deliver.
Very good. And yes, I'm about to unmute Paul. I want to bring your attention to the chat room. There is a question there asking for clarification. Paul, I've got you unmuted. You should be live.
I am. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And I'm sorry for the long title. I'm actually oversee information technology too, but they figured my title was long enough. They didn't bother adding that. Good afternoon from College of the Redwoods. So we started this process some years ago, and I'm really excited as where we are now. I'll give a shout out, first of all, to the enabling services. As Jane has mentioned, they have done all of the heavy lifting. I know, like every school, you really struggle with the idea of having to pull people away from their current projects that are always demand immediate attention. But my staff had very little to do, and whenever they did have something to do, the enabling services was right there with us, helping us get that done. So it just all went very smooth getting this implemented. And the other point I'd like to make about the enabling services is, even though we've been live now with this for quite a while, whenever there's a little hiccup that our system is not talking with the Glue adopter or whatever's going on in Butte, we get a little notification saying, hey, we're not talking, please look into this, and then we get it remedied real quick. So it's just been a godsend having all of this going on. We are a colleague school using SQL. We have both the CCC Apply and multiple measures adopters. We don't use the CCC Apply as much. Our driving force for getting on this project was the multiple measures, and I'll explain a little bit about that in a minute. We do use the CCC Apply in perhaps a little different way than was ever intended, because we love querying on the staging tables that we get. Instead of having to import all of that data into our SIS, we can write queries off of the staging tables, and we do actually quite a bit of that from our CCC Apply data. But for the multiple measures, like a lot of schools complaining about AccuPlacer and the whole testing process, we had started adopting multiple measures using the RP developed rubric, and I think John Haddad will probably address that a little bit. But the problem still was getting that data into the SIS in a timely manner for the students. We held a summit, and one of the things that I presented at our summit was a statistic from the Chancellor's office that nearly 72% of students who apply fail to register for classes. So we recognized that we really needed to streamline this process from application to actually registering. And one of the areas that we decided to focus on was this placement testing. That seemed to be one of the hiccups, because now you've got students. We live in a very rural area. It's difficult for students to have to keep coming into the college in between their application and when they can start classes, and so many of them fall by the way. We actually had employed temporary workers during that process between application and registration, calling up people who had applied but hadn't registered, trying to find out what's wrong and how we can help them. That became quite a process. So we decided we'd try to automate as much as possible getting these multiple measure placements into our SIS. And that's where the SuperGlue thing really streamlined the process. So now when a student does their application, we have a process the next day that goes out and looks in our staging tables for those placements, grabs the CCC ID, matches it with a student ID from colleague. If it can't find a match, it leaves it alone for the next time. But if it finds a match, then it grabs those placements and pushes them into our SIS. And what this does is, especially if you have prerequisites on any of your courses, I realize now we've gotten rid of a lot of the remedial courses at all of our schools, but we still have some, especially for STEM. These students now are not, don't have the hurdles to register for their classes. Their placements are already in there. And what also happens is now that those placements get pushed into the SIS right away, by the time Admissions and Records sends out their welcome letter to the students, it sends their placement as well. So the student has much more information to go with right out of the gate, and they can begin registering. Let me see what else I've got on my notes. Even though the remedial courses have been largely removed, the one issue that we had with the STEM courses is we had a remedial course in STEM, our intermediate algebra course, and a lot of students, I don't know what it's like at other schools, but certainly here we have a lot of students who have math anxiety, and they were a little nervous about jumping into transfer level math, and they were taking the intermediate algebra when, according to the placement rules, they were actually overqualified for that, and they should have been in transfer level. And so we actually kind of had what we called a reverse prerequisite, where if their placement placed them high enough, they would have to go see an advisor to get that block removed so that they could enroll in the remedial course. So that has turned out to work out really well for us using the multiple measures placement, so that even though we don't have the remedial courses, we can help students get into their transfer level courses, into their correct, appropriate courses much smoother. And our number of students enrolling in transfer level math and English right out of the gate has skyrocketed. And we've done studies on the success rates, and they've held steady. So this is all really good news as far as complying with AB 705. And the other final aspect of this is, again, the staging tables. As we're trying to fine-tune our support courses for English and math, we're able to look at these staging tables and say, okay, what kind of GPA did these students have that are in this course compared to their success rates? What kind of math courses did they have prior to enrolling in the math here? And we're able to look at the success rates based on those factors, and it helps us fine-tune the support courses that we have for our transfer level math and English.
That's a good point, Paul, because I keep forgetting to actually emphasize that we're not just delivering placements, we're delivering that data
as well. Yes.
That is really helpful. So
yes.
Great.
So that is all I have, Jane.
Well, thank you. That is quite a bit. It was a pleasure to hear from you. Thank you very much for joining the webinar, Paul. All right.
Thank you, Paul.
Welcome.
Let's see, Jane, there is a question in the chat. Is SuperGlue compatible with Unidata Colleague?
Unidata Colleague. Well, we have been delivering to all the colleague schools so far. I have to say I'm not sure what that permutation exactly means, but I can check with our colleague developer and I can get back. Who actually asked that question?
Yeah, I'm seeing it as Kurt. And Lou Del Zombro, our CTO, it looks like he's answering the question, just to say yes, that
Yeah,
unit A.
yeah. I've never heard of a version of Colleague that we didn't deliver to. So.
Okay. Also, this is for you, maybe, Jane, or for the MMPS team. I'd like everyone to take a look at the chat.
Is that about the multiple measures data and you know, self-reported? Yeah. Okay, yeah, and that's good. It looks like John did actually address that, but I did want to point out that SuperGlue delivers both self-reported, you know, self-reported base placements as well as the verified transcript. We do both. The reason I was mentioning the verified transcript data is because that's where we really did a lot of integrations with SuperGlue, with the third party, the other grantees that are providing the transcripts, and the ERP providing the placement. So it kind of showcases that back and forth, but we actually support all of that self-reported data as well. It's just that in AB 705, the preference is supposed to be towards verified transcript if it's available. So that's why I emphasize that. So good clarification. Any other questions?
Very good. Yeah, I think John has a question regarding back regarding the multiple measures data. And you've got your answer there, John. You want to address that real quick, John, or we can allow you to chat it out as well?
Yeah, I think that I'm assuming that they're running into issues, and I think I've had some feedback from other colleges that when students are creating multiple open CCC accounts and submitting applications to the same college, or it would be multiple colleges, using different CCC IDs, that they're in the merging process. I believe a lot of colleges have processes in place that merge multiple CCC ID records into one student record in the SIS. That there's a bit of an issue with trying to reconcile and pick out the best MMPS record, since there is a corresponding MMPS record that's sent to each college for each application that's submitted to a college. That I think we need to get a little bit more information to try and figure out what we can do to help mitigate some of the headaches that's associated with this merging process. I'm not sure who that person is or which college they represent, but I've sent them a message privately to email me with some more information about this so that we can visit offline about that specific issue.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, John. And Jane, back to you.
Actually, I think it's back to John. So we're going to talk about what's coming up in this fiscal year. Yeah, I know. What's coming up in this fiscal year for SuperGlue. And really, because we are a background integrations platform, we interact with all of these different products. And so this is actually an opportunity for me to kind of sit back and let some of my colleagues talk about their products and how we're using SuperGlue to, again, pull all these systems together, share this data across multiple products and multiple systems, and really, make things work better for our students and our educators in the system. So also, John, do you want to talk about what's coming up in terms of multiple measures?
Yes. So we've got, hi everybody. So we've got some interesting things that are happening. One is that we've got access to, we're working on an integration to be able to start pulling in verified high school transcript information coming in from the Department of Education. So this will represent a pretty significant expansion of the amount of verified data that we will potentially have access to. So I know that there are a lot of colleges who have had some of their feeder districts working with CalPass. And we know that there's nothing compulsory about your feeder districts submitting in the MOU and getting the data over to CalPass, which can result in there not being a lot of up-to-date information available inside of the CalPass repository. We also know that CCGI, our other partner with MMPS, who provides access to verified high school transcript information, does not have a high level of coverage at this point. We know that they continue to expand their network of partner high school districts that will, as we over time see a significant or see an increase in the number of transcripts that we have available coming in from CCGI. So CDE does represent a pretty big, significant expansion of the amount of data that we'll have access to for students that are coming in. So we are working on that. We are anticipating that integration is going to be in place following sometime in the third quarter. So that would be sometime in that January, February, March timeframe is when we anticipate being able to roll that out to production and start providing information for colleges for that. So we're definitely excited about that integration and having access to that data that we will be able to then pass over and generate placements, as well as share some of the transcript data with colleges who have adopted MMPS. Additionally, there's a change that is forthcoming in terms of the self-reported high school transcript data that we collect inside of CCC Apply. So as of right now, the self-reported questions are only appearing to U.S. high school graduates who have completed the 11th grade or higher. And those are the only only students and applicants who are submitting applications who are being presented with those questions. In order to address the use case of concurrent enrollment and special admits, we are changing the restrictions on who gets to see those questions and expanding it to allow to any applicants who have completed at least the 9th grade. And then those students will be presented with those self-reported questions. So that will increase the number of students who will be asked those questions and for which we will then have, and all colleges will have access to the self-reported high school transcript information coming from students who have completed at least 9th grade in a U.S. high school. So those are the two big changes that we're working on. We know that there are, as of right now, there is an AB 705 workshop or conference that's going on. It's a webinar that's going on that's talking about support for ESL placement. As just to confirm, English and math from an AB 705, colleges had to be compliant with the regulations starting in fall of 2019. So all of the colleges are placing incoming students that into the current semester. They have been placed according to the AB 705 guidelines. For ESL, colleges are not required to be in compliance with the AB 705 for ESL placement until fall of 2020. So ESL, they're continuing to work through the parameters and understanding exactly what can be done. And so looking forward to some really great information coming out of the webinar that's going on right now. I'll have a chance to listen to the recording of it this afternoon and talk about how we're going to be supporting, getting a better idea of how we're going to be supporting ESL placements and recommended support from an AB 705 placement perspective within the coming months, as well as we start gearing up and already started talking about the admission cycle for fall of 2020.
Great. Thank you, John.
You bet.
Okay.
Thanks, John. Jane, I want to call attention that we have 3 questions in the chat room at the moment. And I'm not
sorry,
sure
I'm on mute. So how often, from Steve,
yeah.
We have how often can CCC Apply data get updated locally with the college adapter? It streams down as soon as the student submits the application right now. So it's not, you could gather it as rapidly as you wish, really. It's more, it's delivered to the staging table as soon as that submit button is clicked. And, within, I think, according to enabling services, stopwatch things within like microseconds in most cases. So yeah, it's really up to your process as how quickly you'd want to get that from the staging tables and pull it in. Will CCC Apply be modified to collect multiple measures data for non-credit programs. That's one I don't know. I know Patti, our CCC Apply product owner, is on the line. She has a cold and her voice is a little inhibited, but Patti, can you speak to that?
Sure. So will CCC Apply be modified to collect multiple measures data for non-credit programs? I believe that we will do what we are told to do. And right now we don't include that. But I know John Haddad is working closely with the AB 705 team, and it would be an easy thing to do. So right now it's not on the roadmap. And that came down from the Chancellor's office when we rolled this out. So we can, as I said, easily reverse that. But right now it's not on the roadmap. Sorry.
Thanks, Patti.
Sure.
There is one more question there. Is it possible to download on-demand CSV data without using SuperGlue?
So on-demand CSV data, meaning placement data, or?
Is that apply data with the staging?
With the download client, yeah.
That looks like Mark.
I believe that's Mark Hopkins at Palomar.
Yeah.
What I might do is reach out to you, Mark, and get a clarification on the question, and then I will make sure we get that answered.
That's great. Thanks, Jane.
Okay.
We're ready to move along.
Okay, so a couple more of my colleagues, Mark Cohen, who is our product owner for the data warehouse team, and he can talk to the data that's moving to the data lake and data warehouse.
Hi, I'm Mark Cohen. So as far as the data lake and data warehouse, we're in the process of launching the data warehouse from pilot to production. The data warehouse contains data from all of the CCC Apply application, the international application, and fee waiver, along with data from multiple measures, which we discussed earlier, data from MyPath, and also data from Canvas, which requires a letter from the university president or the college president to bring that data in. We are moving data locally with SuperGlue from various data sets into the data lake, and from the data lake to the data warehouse. So the data sets I just spoke to in the data warehouse. In the data lake, we also have the COCI and CID data, and in the process of bringing in MIS and CalPass Plus data, and continuing to work with the Chancellor's office on prioritizing what data moves from the data lake to the data warehouse, as well as identifying additional sources of data that we will be bringing in to the data warehouse to provide more value and reporting, which we'll be announcing more broadly soon after this initial launch, and then the launch of the new data warehouse reporting center.
So Mark's email contact will be at the end of this, and those of you who are our researchers and data dash folks, he's your guy for if you have their specific data set information that you'd like to see in the warehouse for reporting and research.
Right, and as far as the data is being updated currently daily from the various data sources. We're in the process of changing the apply data to update near real time as we offer more reporting out of the data warehouse.
Great. Thank you, Mark. All right, we have a CCC Apply redesign, as those of you, I'm sure many of you have heard of that project for this fiscal year, and that is going to impact the Glue for Apply, the data that we deliver, and there's some really great enhancements that are coming across due to that project. So Patti, I'm going to talk because her throat's been ailing her, so I'm going to talk, and if we have any questions, she's going to be fine answering those. But one of the most exciting features is something that I've been hearing about myself for a couple of years from the colleges, from the field, and that is, can we get this data faster? Can we get this data sooner? Can we get this data before the student has to go through the whole application? And that's exactly what the redesign, one of the aspects of the redesign is going to do is instead of waiting for the student to submit the entire application, we're now redesigning it so that we can send you student contact information up front as soon as they click that first page and get that information in there. So that's going to allow, again, faster onboarding and a better interaction with between the college and the student as they're trying to figure out the path forward to get enrolled in their classes and move on with their educational goals. So that's going to be an exciting change in our new fiscal year. We're also working, oh, go ahead. I heard.
I was just going to add, and hopefully the goal for this, because this has been, something that colleges, I'm sure everybody online has wanted for years and years. It will give you the opportunity to get consent from the student to release that early information and hopefully minimize, reduce, or eliminate abandonment so that you can reach out and get that student to, submit to completion. So great job, Jane. Just wanted to add that.
Yeah, great. And then the validation of data delivery and college processing, these are just things that we've built into the staging table where when the college has actually picked up a record to process it, we have a date time stamp that, so you can track that and then we can track that and we know that the college has been able to process successfully that data. And then also we're partnering with the CCC Apply team on making sure that we have some validation that can be bubbled up to the interface, the admin interface with CCC Apply that will let you know when data has been successfully written to the staging table by Glue for Apply. So a lot of these administrative features that make it easier for the colleges to support that whole process. Anything else, Patti?
The only thing is I'm seeing some questions in the chat because I know that this is going to raise a lot of questions. We are right now, finalizing requirements on this. Because, there's a lot of things to consider. We have an open CCC redesign coming. There's a lot of ways we can approach this. Our goal is to, whether it comes in phases, is to get you that data as early as possible. But one of the questions was, will we be able to see the incomplete apps in the report center? I know that that's being considered. So there will be, ways for you to see it beyond just getting that data right into your system. We're just trying to figure out what can we feasibly do as soon as possible. So if it doesn't happen right away with this first release, I'm sure enhancements will be made. Is there any other questions about that? And get that all out of the way right now. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, Patti.
One more point of clarification here. SuperGlue does work with PeopleSoft, is that correct?
Oh, absolutely, yes. We work with PeopleSoft, Colleague, and Banner. And as I said, we're even we've got our foot in the door with Workday because we know that may be coming down the pike with some of our colleges signing on with them, perhaps.
Okay, very good. Hopefully that answered your question, Mark. If not, please follow up in the chat window. Thank you.
Yeah, and certainly we're happy to follow up with with these colleges individually if you want some more information too. So my contact information will be there at the end. All right, Mike, we are going to end with you. So why don't you talk about some of what we are working on now with MyPath and SIS integration using SuperGlue.
Great, thanks. So I'll keep this brief since I know we're at the end. We obviously have a very broad roadmap for the coming year. There's a lot of things that are great ideas coming out of our user group, feedback from the colleges that we have that are either implementing or going live. But specific to our Glue functionality, we're working on an initial set of integration use cases provided to us by our member colleges. And we're working with the Glue team on an initial set of 3, just to start with. We hope to complete actually 10 overall in the first year, but the first 3 are around admission status, orientation status, and ed plan status. And really, we hope to be able to introduce connectivity between those fields in the SIS and MyPath to allow colleges to create a more robust onboarding experience that can help students go to whatever the next step is that they have identified in their onboarding process for new students, and also to have that data and that student status be synchronized between the two systems, so that not only do colleges get an understanding of when students have completed tasks in MyPath, but also so that when colleges have certain statuses that they want to have generate alerts and reminders and notifications out of MyPath to try to prompt student progress, they can actually send that information to MyPath and use us to send out text messages and things like that, prompting students to go do tasks that that are important for their current state and where they are in their matriculation process. So we're really excited about this. In a lot of ways, this is the culmination of everything that a lot of our long-standing advisors have been thinking MyPath should be headed towards for a very long time, and we're real excited to bring this functionality to the table.
Yeah, it's a great, this is really what I meant. A lot of this is what I mean about the conversations that SuperGlue can facilitate between these systems. You can really see the power when you have, MyPath rules-based engine and that ability to, directly text the student and encourage them to get things done, fed by the data that we can pull out of the SIS system and other systems like Canvas. So it's going to be, I think, a really exciting project. Thank you, Mike. All right, I'm going to now just have Andy kind of wrap us up on, for those of you who are in the maybe 30% of colleges that haven't ramped up on SuperGlue, but you're interested in learning more and figuring out how you would get some of these features. Andy, why don't you take it away and let them know how we can do that?
Sure, you bet. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear. Great,
thanks. My voice is kind of gone today. Hello, everybody. My name is Andy Newman. I lead the Enabling Services team. And Paul, I appreciate your kind words earlier about the work that the Enabling Services team has been able to provide to you and your college. The Enabling Services team is essentially a deployment arm or the implementation team that helps your colleges adopt all of the solutions at the Tech Center. And I have added to the chat window a link to how you adopt any of the solutions at the Tech Center. And then I've added a couple of documents. One is the 3 easy steps to working with the CCC Tech Center, and then a worksheet that allows you to kind of plan which solutions you want to adopt and when. And then perhaps most important is the list of the college relationship managers, the CRMs, for your particular college. So if you download that, take a look at that, you'll know exactly who to contact as your college relationship manager. And our college relationship managers are here on the call with us today. They are Warren Whitmore, Monica Matusik, and Monica Zalikat, who I'm sure most of you have already gotten to know already or are working with on other deployment projects. Also with us today, we have Michael Artie, who heads up our project management team, and Martin Rudd, who is our lead deployment engineer. So really, that's all I wanted to cover today. I know we're short on time. When in doubt, send me an email, anewman@ccctechcenter.org. You can look up how to adopt on the Tech Center website, or you can email all the CRMs at crms@ccctechcenter.org. And from there, we will take it from there. We will answer your questions. We will coordinate in that one-stop shopping. You can, once you make contact with your college relationship manager, ask all of your questions directly to your CRM, and they'll do all the work inside the Tech Center, figuring out what the answers need to be from the different players across the organization to streamline your life a little bit. When you're ready to adopt, we will work with you. We will initiate a project plan and work with you through the entire deployment process and help you to be successful, not only with the implementation, but thereafter. We're mostly interested in your ongoing success. So again, there's a ton of fantastic no-cost solutions like we've talked about today here with SuperGlue and how it connects to MyPath, MMPS, Canvas, Apply, and so on and so forth. That all you need to do is give us an email, a call, a chat, and we will help you get started. So with that, Jane, back to you.
Thanks, Andy. All right. I've seen a few questions pop up here at the end, so I can quickly address a couple of those that I've seen, and that is, someone mentioned the grade passback, which is the next big feature we had lined up for our Canvas SIS integration. The plugin that's provided by Canvas to do that is just sitting there taunting me, but we do not have that right now funded for this fiscal year. You know, this is something that we do have as an ongoing discussion, though, because we know it's something that is wanted by the colleges. So, you know, I would just say stay tuned. And, you know, this is something that we are constantly always evaluating our roadmap and the needs of the colleges. So we will, you know, it's certainly on our radar. We've done actually a lot of research on it already, but it's just right now, it's not in the top priority for our fiscal year. All right. Thank you so much. If there are no more urgent questions, you have all of our contact information. Please reach out to us as you have feedback on things you would like to see from SuperGlue or any of these other products. We really like the feedback from the field. We really do not rely on our own ideas. We get our ideas from the field, and those are the best ideas. So please keep that feedback coming. And thank you for attending, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it. We're about 5 minutes over. Hope you have the contact information you need for follow-ups. And I'm going to go ahead and end the recording now. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Sandoval, for facilitating.